Welcome, everybody, to edition one of Everything Football. It's Jim Williams, it's Ruth Casillas. And Ruth, welcome to the show. And we're going to have some fun over the next, oh gosh knows how many weeks we got going here. It's going to be, by the time it ends, it'll be another year. So we'll see
Right.
how it goes.
Yeah, we're gonna
Tonight,
have fun doing this till like the end of
yeah,
February. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. Tonight, we have a fun opportunity. You will be, you're not that far right now, but you will be at Raymond James Stadium, where the number 25 ranked um, Bulldogs of Fresno State will come to town to take USF on. And I know Coach Golich and the Bulls are ready, they're healthy, and it should be a good game.
Excited to see their quarterback return after almost 10 months of not playing football. And Byron Brown, who's going to be taking the field, leading his offense. So that's pretty exciting. Alex Golesh, the head coach for the USF Bulls, just went on and on and on about Boise State and their culture and their camaraderie as a team and how they've been able to be so efficient throughout the last few years. So he has
Mhm.
much respect for the team that they're going to be taking on at the Raymond James Stadium at a 5 p.m. Kickoff, which is an interesting time to start a football game. But I'm excited to be there at the Raymond James Stadium to see the Bulls take on one of their first competitive opponents that's going to be happening in the first coming weeks for them.
Yeah, it's really going to be wild because, to be honest, we're looking at a USF team that's going to face in succession three ranked teams. Okay, so they play Boise State, then they go to the road, go to the Swamp, and play Florida, who of course is a ranked team, number 15, and Miami, who's ranked last, depending upon who you look at, ranked it between anywhere from between 11 and 8. So they got three teams right there before they even start conference play. So you can't say they took on any cupcakes. Now, with regard to what you were talking about, Boise State is, everybody's the group of six, which is the conferences that aren't a Power Four conference, and and we're talking about Boise State's kind of the OG of great teams in that conference. I mean that group. I know, but UCF was kind of the sexy thing for a while, but Boise State still year in year out just kept knocking off Pac-12 teams, kept knocking off Big 12 teams, kept knocking off anybody who played them to the point where nobody wanted to play them anymore. They've got the Smurf turf out there in Boise. They are, as I said, they're one of the OGs of really decent, college football on that level.
Yeah, and talking about their turf, I was talking to a coworker about this the other day.
Hmm.
Has it been banned since Boise State decided to turn their field blue for other universities to lead the charge and having a colored turf?
Actually, no. There is, I want to say New Mexico State, but I could be wrong. There is a school out there, and I'll have to look it up. I'll put it in the comments below. But there's a school out there that has a red turf, and I just can't. That would blind me. I would absolutely be. I couldn't. It's the Boise turf. And God love them. They've had that for a long time now. So I guess people are kind of used to it. But
Yeah,
an absolute and total blood red turf is a little, harsh for me. I'm not quite sure
yeah,
I'd want to see that. You
yeah.
know,
I don't
to
know. I
Go
don't
ahead.
know if that would deem like to say that you have an advantage over your
Hmm.
opponent if you're blinding them by the turf. I think that could possibly work
Yeah.
in your.
As we kind of take a look at what Boise State and USF bring tonight. Um, I mean, we all know about Ashton Gently. Okay, I mean he was a Heisman Trophy finalist, outstanding running back. He was on the NFL. Sire Gans, Breezy Dunbar, Dyron, excuse me, Riley, Mark Sherrod, all from that offensive team at Boise last year that are not there. Now, their returning quarterback, Maddox Madison, to an offense that has some, they've I think they're going to have a wait and see situation. Malik Nelson transferred to Boise from USC. Nelson is basically the backup quarterback at this point. Madison passed for 3,000 yards last year, 23 touchdowns with 6 interceptions. Now, the one thing that is kind of Golish's, go to, right, is he likes to play up tempo. And when I mean up tempo, I'm talking about 60 to 70 offensive plays. And the average college plays about 30 to 35 plays per game. So you can, when you talk about up tempo, the goal that Golish is going after is to tire the opponents out to the point where by the fourth quarter, that's when you break loose and get going. Now, Boise State last year gave up 82 points in their first 3 games. Okay. But from that point on, they allowed, only 30 plus points on 2 occasions. So, it's a Boise's defense, and they bring a lot of those kids back, is definitely going to be an interesting situation. Now, as you say, Byron Brown, thank goodness that they've got him back because you remember Byron last season was quite fantastic in the early part of the season when the Bulls, had him on the field. He's a great passer. He's also an outstanding runner. So we'll see how that goes. He's got some really good running backs, and now it's Katarius Norris and
Yeah.
Sam Franklin who transferred in. Also transferring with some wide receivers, Chaz Sheraton and Connor McLaughlin. So, we're talking about, and also Chaz Nimrod, who was at Tennessee when Golich was at Tennessee. So they got some pretty good kids. They had problems on defense last year. The Bulls had trouble, you know, keeping keeping people out of the end zone toward the end of the season. But on that side of the ball, they also had a great portal where they took in a couple of UCF players as well as 2 Texas A&M starters in Jacob Mansfield, Dre Butler, Tervon Mitchell, and Denard Flowers, all coming in on that defense to to return with linebackers Jalen Schuler and Mark Harris. So I think they're going to have a better defense, but this is a team that averaged last year 41 points in scoring, which you know, that's not bad, and we definitely going to have to see how that wide open offense works tonight. Now you're there. I'm in the Baltimore, Washington area. You're in right there uh, down the street from Ray J. What's the thing looks like weather-wise? It's going to be hot. It's Florida.
Yeah.
It's August. It's hot. Okay, we know that. No, I'm not breaking any news here on that one. What about the weather with regard to rain?
So earlier this week, we were consistently on again, off again rain. It was pretty bad. We were kind of experiencing almost like hurricane like tropical
Boy.
storm like weather in the last 10 days. But
Hmm.
since yesterday, there's been a complete turnaround. So we had a presser earlier this week, I believe it was on Monday, where we got to speak to Alex Bullish and
Hmm.
Byron Brown. And we talked to them about, okay, have you guys been practicing with this weather? Because this could be a continuation later on this week when you guys are going to be taking on Boise State. And they said they've been playing with wet balls for the last 2 weeks. They have been preparing themselves for that rainy weather. But it seems like things have really turned around in their favor because it was a crystal blue sky day yesterday here in Tampa, Florida. And today seems to be a follow up with that. I just went on a run earlier this morning when it was 86 degrees out. So there's a nice breeze out there as well. So it seems like the rain weather is not going to be a factor in tonight's game. Now, as we know, how Florida operates, things can change into a tropical storm in a matter of minutes here.
Right.
Looking like
Yeah.
there's a clear forecast from what I checked on the radar earlier today. So a clear skies here at the Raymond James Stadium. So that shouldn't be a problem. But if it is an issue, Alex Golish has definitely got these USF Bowls ready for anything. Like I said, he's made sure that they've been practicing in those weather conditions earlier this week because it's been raining on again, off again for the last 10 days, and they've been practicing nonstop in that weather. So they're ready for any circumstance, but it looks like in their favor, things are going to be working out. So it's always better to see clear skies when it comes to football because people don't like to just see teams running the football as much. They want to see the ball, the pigskin fly through the air. So we'll be excited to see that the offense is going to be throwing the ball a lot today.
Okay, we got some questions coming in here. Okay, Just Beechin is asking, is USF going to the ACC when FSU leaves? All right. Well, just Beechin. Okay. Just here's what I can give you an answer to. Okay. I think there's no question that the ACC and USF will get together. Now, you're saying when FSU leaves. When FSU leaves, and this is funny, Ruth. What I've been covering is is the tumultuous movement in college football over the past few years. The reason I think that when you talk about when all this is going to happen, it's not going to happen for another 5 years. Okay, just so calm down, guys. Calm down. It's not going to happen for another 5 years. The ACC will, if they do, I mean, there's an article, you can look it up. I wrote about it, about the ACC. It's called ACC 2.0 and how it can be the college equivalent of the Ivy League with regards to the athletics and the academics aspect of it. USF just needs to do something that they hadn't done in the past couple of years prior to Alex Golesh getting here, and that is win consistently. Just keep winning, okay, on the football field and the basketball field, and the rest of it will take, will the market is strong. It's a top 10 market. The facilities they have is fantastic. They're going to have a brand new stadium. So all that's good looking into 2029. And by the way, if they were to get into the ACC in 2029, guess who comes to USF on campus in 2029? That would be, yeah, you're right, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So let's see how that goes. Okay. So, all right, here's one from JK. Do you think the SEC teams are overrated every year? Not every year. Okay. This year, I don't know what to think. Okay. Alabama has a big game with Florida State. We'll talk about that probably tomorrow, but we'll talk a little bit about it today. I don't know what to think. Alabama's got Caleb DeBoer. This is his second year as head coach at Alabama. And Ruth, Alabama has been a factory of pushing out pro football players back during the Saban days. Well, it's not Saban days now. It is Caleb DeBoer's days. And he had an 8-4, I think it was 8-4 record last year. And people in Alabama were, basically considering that a terrible season. And so we'll see. They open at FSU. They open at Doak Campbell. I know that many people, in many years I've been to Doak Campbell, are all happy because they replaced the metal bleachers, which this time of the year is a wonderful thing. You want to go and sit in metal bleachers with a whole bunch of incredible mesh seats. I mean, it's a gorgeous looking stadium. You'll get to see it on Saturday when FSU and Alabama play each other. But yeah, I think that the SEC this year, I don't think that besides Texas, which we'll see how that works out because they opening against Ohio State. We'll see what goes, but I think that's really going to be a lot of fun coming this weekend. So, what do you think? Are the SEC overrated?
I find it slightly overrated just at times, but I want to speak on FSU and Alabama opening on Saturday. My older sister went to FSU, and she is a huge Seminoles fan, as well as my brother-in-law. So their excitement to see FSU kind of kick off their season in a pretty productive way, taking on Alabama. But they have a lot to recover from. I think they would want to say they're kind of in this area in their mindset where they think last season was a fluke. Obviously, dealing with the amount of injuries that they did, and they're
Sure.
hoping that there is a resurgence of the Seminoles. But taking on Alabama, who also I feel has a lot to prove after having a kind of lackluster season last season in their
Right.
term, with their expectations of the team. So I'm excited to see that these two teams who have a lot to prove in their individual cultures and organizations, to see them go head to head this Saturday at 3:30. I'm excited. The whole family is popcorn ready for this game.
It's it should be a good game. Let's say that right off the get go. However, Caleb DeBoer didn't win a road game last year.
Mm.
Okay. Now that being said, Mike Norvell didn't tear up the tear up the field
Lost
either
a lot of home
last
games.
year. He had not only trouble on the road, he had trouble at home. I honestly think, and this is going to sound nuts, but knowing Alabama as I do, and knowing FSU as I do,
Mm.
I think that if Caleb DeBoer has another 8-4 season, he may not be there anymore.
Wow.
And if Mike Norvell has anything like the season he had last year, he definitely is not going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
So I think, we talk about the game tonight, the Boise State USF game, as a statement game for USF. If they can knock off Boise State, that is a true feather in their cap. That gets them on a roll. That gets them national recognition right off the bat. The 5 o'clock start time is because ESPN wants to have a doubleheader, but they don't have a late game, meaning they don't have a 10:30 game tonight. So they have a 9 o'clock kick, which is Nebraska, taking on. I just lost who's Nebraska? Nebraska's taking on Cincinnati. I'm sorry. Nebraska's taking on Cincinnati tonight at 9 o'clock. So that's your late game. I think that so this is a statement situation for USF tonight. They know it, and they understand, and that's why they're reverently speaking about Boise State, because Boise State is a quality program. Now, that being said, let's shift back to your Alabama situation. Alabama, this is not Nick Saban, and it's tough to follow Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And with the transfer portal the way it is, um, you can bring in kids, you can lose kids. Alabama lost a lot of kids last year. So we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a very, very, I think from a standpoint of coaching staff situation, whoever loses this game is basically, they got to either win out or pretty close, win out, because both the expectations for both these teams are a lot higher than perhaps they really are from a standpoint of talent.
I couldn't agree more. I think each organization has a lot to prove.
Right.
They have minor setbacks from previous seasons that they want people to forget about. So there's a lot of pressure on both of these colleges
Right.
to make an explosive start to start the season. Is there any game in particular that you're most excited for when it comes to opening weekend for college football?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Mickey in Orlando, we'll get to you in just a second. I'm excited for the Texas Ohio State game.
Oof.
That's one.
Yes.
Two, Notre Dame and Miami, for two totally different reasons. Texas against playing Ohio State. Now, I used to direct Big Ten football. I have been to Ohio State. I have been to the Horseshoe numerous times. I'm going to say it, and I with no fear of offending Ohio State fans. I don't like Ohio State. It's not, I'm not a fan of the Buckeyes. I'm not a fan of Columbus, Ohio. I'm also not a fan of Texas, but not to that point. Arch Manning, all right, Archie Manning's grandson, Peyton, and Eli Manning's nephew. What a tough situation that kid is in. He's got the Manning name. and he's playing at the Horseshoe on the road. No pressure, right? So I think that's going to be an interesting game for. We were talking just a minute ago about the SEC, and Ruth, to me, and get your take on this for a second. Most of these conferences, the Big Ten, the SEC, are top heavy. Okay, there's 4 or 5 teams at the top, and then there's a huge drop to the next level. And so from Texas, of course, getting in there last year, pushing Ohio State to the hilt in the playoffs. I think they're 2 incredibly talented squads. Ohio State year in year out just keeps churning it out. I'm interested in finding out if James Franklin can do that at Penn State. I mean, James is a good dude. I think he's a fantastic coach. He's a great recruiter. For some reason, he literally cannot beat Ohio State or Michigan. I mean, you could put the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Philadelphia Eagles out there on at College Park. I'm sorry, not College Park, State College in where Penn State plays, and it would be a tough time for them. They it's crazy. But they have to get by this year because, I mean, they're preseason in the top 5, as is Ohio State. So we'll see. But I think if anybody can go into the Horseshoe and beat Ohio State, it will be Texas. Texas is a really loaded team. Now, Notre Dame and Miami. I personally have a love relationship for that rivalry. When Jimmy Johnson was there, he was brutal on Miami, and now Lou Holtz was equally brutal, and we've seen the games. We've watched the 30 for 30 Catholics versus convicts game. I was at that game, working that game. It's a rivalry that was amazing. Along with, by the way, Notre Dame and FSU had a great rivalry because Bobby Bowden and Lou Holtz were incredible friends. As a matter of fact, Lou Holtz's best man at his wedding was Bobby Bowden, and when Lou Holtz didn't have a job, he stayed at Bobby Bowden's house in West Virginia. So they had a history that was phenomenal. It would be great to see Miami with Mario Cristobal and Coach Freeman at Notre Dame rekindle something like that rivalry. They'll never be able to do it again because the teams that Miami and Notre Dame trotted out each year, during that time, Miami was a perpetual national championship contender, as was Florida State, as was Notre Dame that time around. Times have changed drastically from that era, but that's more nostalgic. The Texas game against Ohio State is more substantive because either one of those teams could end up being the national champion. Let's see what Mickey in Orlando wants. How do you both? You're a UCF fan. Interested in hearing your thoughts about Scott Frost's return. After Gus Malzahn, of course, went to work as the offensive coordinator for Mike Norvell. Scott Frost did a wonderful job while he was there, and I think he took a lot of heat from going back to his alma mater to Nebraska, and he got bounced, pretty much. It wasn't a good time for Scott at Nebraska, but Scott didn't forget how to coach. Okay, he knows to coach, and I think UCF has had a pretty good run at recruiting. So, are they going to win the Big 12 championship, Mickey? No, not this year. Maybe down the road, maybe 2-3 years down the road. I would say yeah, but right now, to me, you got Utah's going to probably have a bounce back year in the Big 12. I would look for that. I would look for. I don't see why ASU is going to fall off. I think they've got a good situation out there. So you got Arizona State, and then of course there's Kansas State. There's a bunch of teams out there. So is UCF going to be better? I believe they will. Will they be a contender for the Big 12? I think they're probably maybe a year and a half away, but Mickey, I know that passionate fans at UCF over there will have the patience at the bounce house when they go and see. So we'll see, but they'll have a good season. They'll be better with Scott than they were with Gus, and let's just see how it goes from that standpoint. So, good. As you say, the majority of the night's roster turned over. They did, and we'll see how that works out. But thanks for the question, Mickey.
Thank
All
you.
right, you were just saying games that are exciting for the weekend for weekend one. Is there any one you particularly think is going to be a
Well,
good?
being in a FSU household,
Yeah,
the only
true.
game that anybody's been able to talk about is the Alabama game that's kicking off at 3:30 on Saturday.
Hmm.
That's what I look forward to the most. I'm
Okay.
not huge into college football, but this year that is going to change for me because I am, as much as I've loved watching professional football.
Hmm.
There is a lot of respect for these college players and how they play with such passion for their universities. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into college football this year. And it seems like it's a great time to do so with all the changes and all these different teams, whether it be coaching, players. There's just a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz around college football right now.
Well, I think we're going to drag you into it. So,
Yeah, I have no choice.
okay, you have no choice. We're going to throw you in the deep end of the pool here. Um, but it's big time college football is exciting, and it's a lot of fun. And Mickey, by the way, on your other situation where they said they picked UCF to finish last, I don't pay any attention to
Wow.
preseasons. That's that definitely is 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 a mess. No, don't worry about that. UCF will do better than. You know what? I'm going to go out and limb and say they're probably going to be close enough to get actually a bowl game.
Mm,
So keep an eye on that.
that's good.
We'll see. We'll see how it's going. Okay, so check it out. I know they got Tommy Castellanos to run Gus's offense. That's a good fit for Scott Frost. Tommy's got good recruiting, chops, and he's a good offensive guy. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes for the gang in Orlando this year. Let's downshift into something that you do know a lot about, and that is the National Football League. We've had this week is cut down.
Yeah,
Okay, so the rosters are at 53,
goodness.
and everybody's starting to try to find those gems that other teams didn't want. But there they are. And so, what can you tell us about what's going on in the NFL from the standpoint of roster changes and some possible moves?
So something I was looking into earlier this morning, which I found fascinating, is to hear about Dylan Gabriel, who actually quarterback at
Yes,
UCF.
they did.
Yes, and he played excellent there. Has been competing with Shadir Sanders for the QB2 position in
Hmm.
Cleveland, and it seems like as though he has taken over as QB2 for the backup quarterback in Cleveland. So
Hmm.
now Shadir Sanders is supposedly wanting to be traded from the Cleveland Browns because he did not want to sit in third seat. Jim, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that I mean I saw Dylan Gabriel and I saw Sarah Sanders play. Uh, Dylan played at Oregon,
Mm,
and Oregon, of course, they've done very well with their quarterbacks. From that standpoint, I think we have to do is take a quick look over in Denver, and you can see that you know Oregon's quarterbacks end up in the NFL pretty well.
yeah.
Now, in fairness to Sanders, he had no offensive line,
Mm.
and so most of the time he was running for his life.
Are you
Um,
speaking about his time in Colorado?
yeah, at the University of Colorado. Um, the idea that Joe Flacco, I mean, Joe Flacco is not going to last the season. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just not going to happen. I was surprised, frankly, that they picked him. They got rid of Kenny Pickett, so that was a little surprising to me that they cut Kenny Pickett loose. Um, I think Shedeur Sanders is probably one of those guys who is going to have to wait his turn. Not that Dylan Gabriel's. I don't know what we'll see what Dylan Gabriel is, but I don't. I think Sanders, because of the offense that he ran, which was his dad's. Now remember that the only other coach he had was the high school coach. So
Wow.
he's run his father's offense for most of his life.
Yeah.
Um, so when you get a playbook, and you've seen playbooks, and I tell people all the time, it's like learning Spanish or English or German. I mean,
A new language.
yeah, it is. It's totally a new language. It's a totally new system. I'm sure he wasn't comfortable with it because it's something that every young quarterback goes through. Are you comfortable with what is on the table there? And offensively, it's not a good situation for him. He's coming in. There's tremendous pressure on him because he fell all the way down, to that point where Cleveland picked him after they already had picked Dylan Gabriel. So there's something they saw in Dylan Gabriel that they didn't see in Sanders, which is why he's probably QB2 at this point, not not on the practice squad. Whether Sanders wants to get traded or not, this is not the way the NFL works. The NFL works when you prove that you are worthy of being traded somewhere, they'll trade something for you. Or if there's somebody that sees that maybe there's something that Cleveland thought about that Sanders that they like, maybe they'll take him. But the thing at this point is, if anybody wanted Sanders, they had plenty of opportunity to take him. So I'm not. You can scream all you want to. If nobody wants you to play for them, it doesn't matter what you want. And right now, I think Sanders should be quiet, be a good soldier, and take his turn when the time comes. Be ready. That's what you do when you're a third-team quarterback. Or you could end up like Kyle Trask, which
Oh gosh, that's a
it,
whole conversation, Jim.
yeah, that is a whole conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think to your point, Dylan Gabriel is a poised, ready to play in the NFL quarterback. Sanders is kind of an X factor because of the offense he played and because of the fact that when you run for your life, you don't know. And I'm talking about from an NFL standpoint. I don't know what he can do. I don't know if he can be a pocket passer. I don't know if he can, if he is an RPO guy, kind of guy. I don't know what he is. And I need to know what he is before I can put him in a game. And I think that's the problem. You can't really, you can see a guy playing practice. Remember, they have 4 guys playing quarterback in practice. So, you're not going to find out a whole lot in that amount of time. And so I think that's the problem with Sanders. Is it a lack of talent? No, I don't think that's the case. I think he has talent. I just don't think anybody has been able to qualify what it is that he, what can he transfer from college to the pros that will make him capable. I mean, who's he like? He's not really like a running type quarterback like Lamar Jackson or someone like that. That's not his style. He did run, obviously, but if you got 7 people chasing you, you're going to run. He can throw on the run, which was basically something he had to do. So I think the long and the short of it is that Dylan Gabriel's a more poised quarterback than Sanders is at this point in time. He's going to have to take his time and learn the position, and the position in in college versus the position in the pros are a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and what's concerning to me from what Shadir is kind of showing in his personality is his lack of patience. His lack of patience with the organization and within himself. And I feel as if Dylan Gabriel has proved throughout his college career and now transitioning into the NFL that he is a not only poised but he's a polished quarterback. He's great in the pocket. I feel like he maneuvers well. He could throw on the run and he could throw a deep ball. He's got quite the arm. So am I surprised that Sanders is now taking the back seat? I'm not. But now I'm interested to see how that's going to how the future of that relationship in that quarterback room is going to pan out. Because as you mentioned, Joe Flacco is not going to be the ultimate savior for the Browns throughout the whole season. I could see Dylan Gabriel start taking his start after week 4.
It wouldn't surprise me. And I think that ironically, Dylan Gabriel, in what he does, I saw the Browns play, um, some preseason, and he looks a lot like Kenny Pickett, which I
Oh
thought
wow.
was kind of, which I thought was kind of interesting. Kenny Pickett, I don't, I mean, I know that for whatever reason he fell into Mike Tomlin's doghouse, and you'll never get out of that if you get into it. Once you get into it, you're doomed. Um, but I don't know what Mike was upset with. If he went to Philadelphia, that one kind of had some interesting situations there, with, of course, Jalen Hurst being the quarterback, for the Eagles, going to get a world championship. So I think that Kenny Pickett might be the the modern version. I'll use modern meaning the latest version of our buddy Baker Mayfield.
Mm,
You know, uh, everybody expects something. He produces for you. I mean, Kenny Pickett has not been a bad quarterback anywhere he's went. He wasn't a bad quarterback in Pittsburgh. He wasn't a bad quarterback in Philadelphia.
mm,
So I was kind of surprised. I would have thought that Cleveland would have given Kenny Pickett the job, told Joe to, thanks for your service, and you can go home now. I mean, the ironic thing here is that Joe Flacco's already banked $80 million,
wow.
so it's not like he needs the money.
Those are big.
Um, he could go back and sit on his couch and watch the games and have no trouble. So that's not an issue with that regard. So is he I mean, Flacco? Yeah, we all know that Flacco can play football. That's not a question.
Mhm.
But it really depends on what's going on there. But I think um, that whole Cleveland thing is a mess to begin with. So let's stay out of the mess business with that
Right.
regard.
I feel like that
Um,
hasn't changed much.
no.
Let's kind of pivot into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers specifically and their
Okay.
roster cutdowns this week. Since I have had a little bit of a closer pull with that organization, just being down the street. Uh, Trey Palmer was a wide receiver for the Bucks for the last two seasons. Started
Hmm.
30 games. Has been unexpectedly by a lot of the fan base. Reading all the comments off of Instagram and Twitter, or X rather. Trey Palmer was waived by the Buccaneers this week
Right.
and now has been picked up by the New Orleans Saints.
Hmm.
I think that might come back to bite the Bucks in the long run to lose a player like Trey Palmer. That was one of the names that kind of stood out to me when it came to what roster cuts were made in the organization earlier this week. Now, not only catching the ball, but throwing the ball as well. Kyle Trask was also waived by the Buccaneers
Right.
as he was entering into his fifth season. Now, they signed Teddy Bridgewater on August 5th, and we
Hmm.
saw Teddy perform in only one of the preseason games.
Right.
And I guess that was enough for the Bucks to solidify that he was going to be the backup for Baker Mayfield. Speaking to Todd Bowles earlier this week about the decision, he said that Teddy brings more knowledge to the locker room as well as experience. Obviously, being drafted in 2014 by the Minnesota Vikings, he's been in the league for a while. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to command offenses. And we just got a little bit of a glimpse of him kind of shaking off the rust in that second preseason game. But I guess he's shown enough, has proven enough to step in as that backup role for Baker Mayfield. And hopefully, we won't even have to use him. Hopefully,
Right.
Baker, being the dog that he is going to stay
Right.
healthy and consistent throughout the year. But I think it's a smart idea to have a veteran quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater to take over, almost like a Joe Flacco situation, in
Hmm.
case to have a player that is seasoned, that is polished like a Teddy Bridgewater, who can learn an offense and who could demand command an offense as well. The
Hmm.
thing with Kyle Trask is he had 2 years sitting behind. Well, he was the third string quarterback when Tom Brady was here
Hmm.
with the Buccaneers, but then he also had the 2 years behind Baker.
Hmm.
I just feel like he hasn't really been able to transition his game from a collegiate level to the NFL. I haven't
Right.
really been able. I've only seen him play in preseason games. I've been able to see him
Hmm.
in training camps, and there is glimpses of excitement when it comes to his game, but there's nothing to really solidify that, okay, this guy could be the guy to lead a locker room. And I think that played a lot into the decision on not keeping him. Now they have a third string quarterback that they're putting on the practice squad, and Connor Balzlak. I can never like pronounce his name correctly. It's Bazelak. And
Bazelak. Yeah.
he showed a lot in preseason, as well as when it came to consistency and how well he was able to learn the offense in that locker
Mm.
room. So Connor's going to look like he's going to be the third string. We're going to have to say goodbye to Kyle Trask. Not sure where he's going to end up. And Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the backup for Baker Mayfield. So there are positions that haven't been over comforted, like, okay, we are definitely set when it comes to the wide receiver room. We're definitely set when it comes to quarterback and safeties, which is something that they struggled with in previous seasons when it came to injuries to
Right.
an Antoine Winfield Jr. and players of that nature. So there are some eyes on the waiver wire to see who
Right.
they sign, who could they bring in. Because when it comes to the wide receiver room specifically, I mean, of course, you got Mike Evans. Now we have Tez Johnson that excited everybody during the preseason. But
Right.
Chris Godwin is not sure if he's going to be back anytime soon. I mean, they're kind of dancing around the idea that he could return midway through the season. But
Hmm.
Todd Bowles, the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, has been specific on saying Chris Godwin will return when he's ready to return. It's
Sure.
completely on his timeline. I mean, a significant ankle break, like his ankle was
Hmm.
almost like severed completely off
Right.
of his leg last season. I believe it was in week 7 of last season. So they're still coming up on that 10-month to 11-month mark of his
Right.
return, and there's no pushing him to come back. So, but there has been exciting rookies that have been making a splash during this preseason
Hmm.
as well for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So there is depth in some areas, especially when it comes to that defensive line, when it comes to their OLBs as well. So the linebacker room has been looking excited, obviously. Who's going to be standing beside Levante David, who is going into his
Hmm.
14th season as a Buccaneer. We have Yaya Diaby, who's really been transferring his game
Hmm.
into being a professional player going into his 3rd season. So a lot of excitement over the Buccaneers right now, and we're going to be commanding the NFC South. They're going to be commanding the NFC South this coming season for the NFL. So a lot of excitement here in Tampa, but there are some question marks still about,
Hmm.
can Baker have enough offensive talent? Is there going to be enough weapons for him to throw on? Or is there going to be kind of like that same thing that we saw last season, where there was a little bit more pressure on Cade Otton, the tight end for the Buccaneers, to kind of step into that role to be that cushion for Baker as, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and other players were dealing with injuries. So, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
excitement around.
Yeah, let me throw a couple things out to you and see what you think. Number one, Teddy Bridgewater,
Mhm.
575 quarters as a professional quarterback. Kyle Trask 4. Okay, 556 to 4. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, if you are a team and you have aspirations to win a division championship, to go on in the playoffs, go deep in the playoffs, you can't afford to have somebody who has 2, quarters of NFL experience as your second string quarterback. That's an absolute and total. It can't happen.
it
It
can't
would
happen.
be it would be it would be absolute insanity to put Trask behind Mayfield, regardless of what happens there, because you're basically handcuffing. You don't know. I mean, who knows? He could be Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick, and all of a sudden he's in there and away he goes. Right? It could happen. I
Mm,
don't think it would, but that's
yeah,
just it could. Bridgewater was a good choice, and he understands how to play football. That's what they need. They don't need to. Well, that's one part they don't. When you look at the at anybody who gets cut, who you think, gosh, how did this guy get cut? I mean, he's a quality player. Um, Understand you had a 53-man roster. Okay, I may have to make a decision to get rid of a guy who I like because I need an extra spot to put another lineman in, a defensive back, a linebacker, an offensive lineman, a tight end, whatever. I need 53 spots. Now, there's only going to be 53 spots. And some of the time, you're going to get rid of somebody who
yeah,
like you say, may come back and bite you at the end. But there's 53 guys. And that's all you can do. And the best you can do is to say, all right, at the end of the day, is this roster the roster I can play and win with? And evidently, you go down the list with Coach Bowles and, with his coordinators, and they seem to feel that the 53 guys they kept are the 53 guys they can go to war with.
Yeah, I mean, there's been question marks all around the league when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
some of these teams that are cutting like Pro Bowl players that
Right.
are very experienced players. Like it's just the name of the game, especially when
Mm-hmm.
you have a draft, an NFL draft, as exciting as we had this last
Mm-hmm.
draft that has really been able to come in and make a splash and make some noise. But I do want to circle back to another Sanders that we have to speak about.
Mm-hmm.
That in the last preseason game um, against the Buffalo Bills, definitely kind of showed his personality a little bit and kind of in the negative way. So Shiloh Sanders,
Mm-hmm.
who was picked up undrafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
Right.
has an opportunity to make the roster at the safety position.
Mm-hmm.
Did have exciting times in training camp, especially when it came to just how well the fan base was able to bring
Mm-hmm.
him in and just really show their support for Shiloh. But there was a lot of times during the first two preseason games where I just felt like he's just not grasping the defense. He's missing a lot of tackles. He just doesn't really seem like he kind of knows exactly what he's doing out there. And so in that last preseason game, that was going to be like, I kind of feel like the Buccaneers had already made their decision on how they were going to move forward with Shiloh. But I think that last game really solidified when he was ejected out of the game after throwing a punch to the tight end for the Buffalo Bills and Zach Davidson. There was a little bit of a push and pull during a play, and then after the whistle was blown, there was more of a push and pull, and then
Mm-hmm.
Shiloh ultimately throws a punch that gets him ejected out of the game. And now he's literally that night, Todd Bowles made the decision at the podium. He kind of announced to everybody, like, that's not how we play professional ball. I let him know on the sidelines that's just, you can't do that in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is no longer college. It's not even acceptable in high school. Like, this is just
Right.
not how you play the game. So it kind of made it he was kind of staring in the direction that Shiloh was no longer going to be a part of the Buccaneers roster. And then the following morning, Monday morning, it was announced that he was waived by the team. Jim, were you surprised by that at all?
No. I think that, again, saw a lot of his games in Colorado. Uh, he was not particularly, I mean, again, you can't, I mean, you've got a guy whose father's an all pro, right? Hall of Fame player at that, at corner. I thought he was undersized at safety. I don't think I don't think he was big enough in the NFL to play that position. He wasn't disciplined enough to play that position. And at the end of the day, that could be Tom Brady Jr., and it doesn't matter. I mean, the last name doesn't matter if you can't play.
Mm.
And, you've got Bowles, who is a defensive coach. I mean, that's his moniker. And he's going to keep the guys he wants that he feels are going to be, solid and consistent. There's no sense in him keeping anybody who, in any way, shape, or form, might be bad in the locker room, might just not, just kind of like, okay, I understand who you are, I understand who your father is. I'm sorry, you're not your father, and B, regardless of who you are, we can't keep you. And I think Bowles is like, he's an old school coach. He wants what he wants. He explains to you, this is what you're going to be in for, and I think that's probably more than anything his mo is that he is not going to put up with any garbage, and especially from a rookie who's hanging on. So one way or another, it was going to work. Do I think I think if he was smart, and I don't know how. I mean, he seems like a bright young man. That he might come back and play on his practice squad if I were he. He's not going to. I'm not say he's not gonna, but it's going to be. If Todd Bowles cuts somebody, a defensive player, uh, other coaches around the league look at that and go, "Wait a minute, he can't play for Bowles." Okay, if he can't play for Bowles, I'm not so sure he can play for us.
Mhm.
So I think that's going to be on the offensive side. It's different, right? Because that's not Todd's. I mean, I'm not sure that Todd knows where the offense practices, but I know that for sure. I mean, that's not his thing. He doesn't worry about it. That's the other guys. But when it comes to defense, I think Todd's not going to let somebody mess around from that standpoint.
Mhm.
Well, let's do this because we got to get going out of here soon. So let's run down what you can watch for tonight. We already said South Florida against um, against Boise State. Any quick prediction on how this ends up?
I think it's going to be a close game. I think both teams are going to come out on fire tonight, throwing the ball, running the ball. It's just going to be a well polished game in the first half. There might be a little jitters that they need to shake off in the first quarter, but I could already tell that this USF Bulls team has kind of been anticipating this game for quite some time since they've received their schedule. They know that they need to come out on fire and make a statement. So I think it's going to be a close game, but the USF Bulls are going to have success in that fourth quarter and win by 3. That's my
I'm going to
prediction.
go with a score of 38 38-31, and South Florida wins 38-31. Um,
They have to start the season 1-1 because the next 2 weeks really tough matchups. They
yeah,
don't want to start this season 0-3.
no, no,
That
that
would
would be
be
that'd be bad news all the way around.
bad news.
Absolutely don't want that. All right, real quick, gang. Here's what you got tonight on the tube. Kicking off, as we said, 5 tonight on ESPN. Our buddy Matt Bure and Tom Luckenbill will be calling the game. Also at 6 o'clock, Ohio is at Rutgers. That's on the Big Ten Network. Lafayette and Bowling Green. That's 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Towson at Norfolk State. That's a 7 o'clock game on ESPNU. Tiffany Green, who we wrote a very nice article about in on the sports pages this week. Check it out. Tiffany and Jay Walker are calling that game. East Carolina and North Carolina State. That's the 7 o'clock game on ACC Network. Delaware State, Delaware. That's the 7 o'clock game on ESPN. Plus Jacksonville State, UCF. That's your 7 o'clock game in Orlando. ESPN Plus. Let's just drop down here to the game at 9 o'clock, which is Nebraska, Cincinnati being played in Kansas City. Mark Jones and Roddy Jones on that call. Miami of Ohio is at Wisconsin. That's also a 9 o'clock game. That's on Big Ten Network. And then the late game, Stony Brook at San Diego State is on KUSI if you're in the San Diego area. If not, you can get it on the Mountain West Conference Network. So Stony Brook at San Diego State. We got games tomorrow, which we'll touch on tomorrow. But for now, I think pretty much we got nothing left, right, kiddo? We talked about what's going on tonight, and we talked about some of the fun stuff that's coming up over the weekend. So gonna be good. And then next week at this time, we'll be leaning into some pretty solid NFL stuff because there's some opening week games in the NFL that are killers. So it's gonna be
Yes.
some fun that time. So we'll have some feeling for some college next week when we get together on that time. But for this time around, it's college Friday, Thursday. It's not going to change. That's going to change a week from today when the NFL gets back into it. So, um, Ruth, it's been great. It's going to be fun hosting this program with you, and we hope that you all do us a favor. Okay, like it. You got. I mean, come on, likable people. Like it, subscribe, and doesn't cost you anything. Leave comments. We will answer them.
Yes.
It may not be the way you want, but we'll answer them. I will tell people whether they can find the red turf, and we'll be back and enjoy it. We're going to do this on mornings, and
Yes.
we'll let you know. It's usually going to be around this time, depending on your Wi-Fi and mine. We'll figure out how it works. But until then, everybody have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Uh, over 475 with us today. We greatly
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much, everyone.
Lots of cool questions and some stuff I'm going to get to on X after the show. Okay. All right, gang. So thanks so much.
Really quick, Jim.
Go,
I
go, go.
to say this publicly while we still have people on the air. I just want to say I have so much respect for you and all that you do, and all that you've done for me since 2018, taking me on as an intern. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited that you involved me in talking football with you, and I just promise to keep learning more and more so I can bring as much energy and knowledge to these shows. And I'm really looking forward to the season.
Well, as am I, and you're my Dylan Gabriel. Okay, we need somebody who we can step in and do it. No question about it. And I have great respect for you and you're going to be a star. We know that. Okay.
Thanks so
All
much,
right,
Jim.
kiddo. We're going to be going and we have some fun. Ruth, you're going to be on tonight with our buddy Sean. Sean's
Yes.
going to have a kickoff show tonight at 5:30 Eastern time. So check that out. There's going to be talking a lot of stuff. Ruth's going to do a report from the stadium, and there's going to be all kinds of fun guests there tonight with Sean. Be sure to check that out. So it's 5:30 tonight, Sean Miller, and it's called Thursday Night Ticket, and that's going to be every Thursday night from here on out. So be sure to check that one out. And if you missed us today, don't worry, we're still here. You can catch us on just on replay. We'll be right at everywhere you can look. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on X. You can find us on Facebook. So just check it out. As we say here, just hit and subscribe. And if you hit the bell, then you'll know every time beforehand when we're going to be on. So until the next time, tomorrow, for Ruth, I'm Jim. Take care, everybody.